All right. Am I
So
still? Let me see.
I have, I'm looking at 3 screens today, so I apologize if I don't maintain eye contact with all these familiar names and faces. I am Maggie Sis. I am the program coordinator for the statewide assessment office, and I am the liaison between the districts, our office, the vendors, the NDE help desk team, our data team. I'm the one that kind of is in the middle and making sure everybody is talking to who they need to be talking to and trying to keep everybody on the same page. We can go to slide 2. I know several of you are not the district DACs, and so I kind of wanted to give you a little overview of the NSCAS umbrella. This, again, we pronounce it NSCAS, and it's actually a system. So we have, excuse me, 3 levels of NSCAS. We have the summative assessments, we have the interim assessments, and then we have formative assessments. The ones today we're going to focus on the summative assessments, but the interim level would include anybody who uses MapGrowth, and which is pretty much 99.9% of the districts. And then the formative assessments are the programs that the districts choose what they use. An example is TestWiz. So back to the summative assessments, we have 3 separate NSCAS summative assessments. We have the general assessment, we have the alternate assessment, and then we also have ACT. And then we also include the ELPA 21, but Allison Olson is in charge of the ELPA 21, and so it's in a different office, but it falls under the NSCAS umbrella. So we can go back to slide 3. So again, the 3 summative assessments. We have the first one, this testing season for the spring, we actually are having the phase 1 pilot in place of the general assessment. We have plans in the future to kind of merge MapGrowth and the summative assessment together. And this is the pilot that is going to test that. So for the rostering purposes, you're going to look at the NSCAS general assessment roster for this. The NSCAS phase 1 is provided through our vendor NWEA, and the testing system is called the Comprehensive Assessment Platform, or we often refer to as CAP. For the NSCAS alternate assessment, this is intended for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities, which is usually less than 1% of your student population, if any. And this assessment is provided by our vendor DRC, and the testing system is called Insight. And then our third one, the NSCAS ACT, I think everybody's familiar with this one. ACT is our vendor, and their testing system is called Pearson Next, and I often refer to it as PA Next. Okay, next slide. So everybody, as we, in the beginning, we're trying to get access to advisor validation. I do have step-by-step instructions that I can send out, that I have sent out to the DACs. The original email went out on December 2nd, and then I sent these instructions out again as an attachment on Wednesday, the 6th of January. So they can provide these instructions to you, or you feel free to reach out to me and I can send them again. So after you log into the portal and you go into the advisor validation, you will go on to verification reports students, which is over to the left of the, there you go. And you also, to the right, you want to make sure you add your district and submit, or select, I think is the button. And then click the 2020-21 academic year and click select. You have to do one at a time, select, and then the year, select. Otherwise, you won't get there. Then back to the verification reports, you will click on students. And the assessment window will, there will be a table in gray, and you'll click on the assessment. And this little blue section will show up. That label there that says label is, if it's in blue, then you're going to have access to run these reports. If it's black, then you need to go back and get those codes that we were talking about earlier from your superintendent. Okay.
Maggie?
Yes.
This is Trista, and just in case anyone else runs into it, I did clear my history and cache, and those turned blue the other day. Or, you know,
Oh,
about you. So
good idea.
that did help that in case anybody else thinks they have access, but it is not giving them access.
Okay, so clear your history. That's a good, thank you, Trista. That's a good idea.
So quick question. Okay, so this is Corey at Sargent. So my label rosters for all statewide assessments, that's blue, and my student level live demographics is blue. Does that mean, because those were not on my tabs, does that mean I have permission so I can print them?
You should be, if they're in blue.
They're in blue.
If you tab
Because
back.
only the results are the only ones that are in black. So
Okay, so the little section under assessment, and it's called, let me pull it up so I can see it better.
see, I can't see.
So the report title is called Label Rosters for All Statewide Assessments. It's down there, my third circle, there you go, right there. If that's blue, you're going to have access to the rosters and you'll be able to export them and review them.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I will just add to clarify. So if these other two are black, that's probably because you don't have that free and reduced lunch code.
Actually, we're not, those two
Or are they just
in black, those are not the
Won't be
roster
available
file
yet.
reports. So you won't
Correct.
even look at those for this.
Right. Correct. So those are the results reports, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay.
So in order to see the label rosters for all statewide assessments, you will need the SPED and the FRL access codes to view it. Okay, so next slide, please. So once you click on that blue label, this window will pop up and you will be able to, there's a drop down where you can pick one of the assessments, or you can pick all and run, for your smaller districts. If you want to see all your students together, that's great. Or you can pick them one at a time. And then once you pick that, it will load up your list and there will be an export button available right next to the drop down here, so that you will be able to export the lists. And then the report itself isn't, you can import it as an SVCS file or an Excel file. And then down there at the bottom of my slide are the fields that get pulled into this report. So we have the reporting school and the membership school, which I will explain the importance of that in a little bit. Grade level, I wanted to explain the grades 3 through 8 will pull grade level, but if it's your cohort for ACT, we do not pull juniors or seniors, we pull third year cohorts. So it's the cohort that is the driving force for the ACT. Grade level or credit level is not a factor. The next column is the assessment, and that's going to tell you which assessment they are currently assigned to. So whether they're going to be a general assessment, alternate assessment, or the ACT. And then the rest of it's a little self-explanatory. The SPED column, all that does is indicate whether there's an IE. And then the lock date, that will be sufficient on 1/11, because these reports will be locked effective close of business on Monday, the 11th, so that you can go back and see their original rosters that will be sent to the vendors. Okay, next slide.
This was just my elaboration on what you were just talking about, Maggie. So for those
Okay.
of us who are publishing to advisor, there's something called an advisor domain. So just letting them know kind of what organization and structure within advisor. So the grade
Okay.
would be in your school enrollment. And this doesn't change for the SIS. So that's going to be their enrollment grade. Right. And there's their assessment where, you know, that's based on their school enrollment because of their grade. And then special education program, those are going to come from your SRS or some of you who use your SPED SIS. And that's where you can mark that alternate assessment. Just a quick reminder that your name, your ID, and the date of birth for those kiddos is all published from Person ID, not your student information system. Your race and gender is going to come from your demographics advisor domain, and then that SPED, that primary disability, and the assessment type is again going to come from that student special education program, which is what SRS sends, and or if you're using your SIS, that's what your SIS would send. So hopefully just to kind of let you know where things might lie within your student information system if you need to make changes. So I will go to the next slide and let you continue. There we go.
Okay, so the data that drives these roster files, for the phase 1 pilot or the general assessment, we are polling all students in grades 3 through 8 with a full-time equivalency of 51% or higher, and the alternate assessment field in the student's SPED record is checked as no. So if your student matches these 3, they are going to be pulled into the phase 1 pilot roster. This is the biggest general and where the majority of your students are going to be pulled into. Okay, next one. I also want, I'm sorry, the accountability, the School of Accountability and School of Attendance. This is your School of Accountability and School of Record is one and the same. So you'll hear me use both because I go NWA likes to use School of Accountability and School of Attendance. Advisor uses School of Record and School of Membership. So I mix them up all the time. But your School of Record is where your test scores are going to be placed. So that's who is responsible for testing the student and where the test results will go. Your School of Membership or School of Attendance really drives where the student is going to be tested. So this comes into the biggest place where this comes into play is any of your students who are attending an external program, such as a Rule 18, a ESU program, or a Level 3 program. Any questions on the accountability versus attendance? Okay. So next is our alternate assessment. Again, grade levels 3 through 8, but you may have some third-year cohorts that are also eligible for the alternate assessment. Your full-time equivalency of 51% or higher. And this is where the alternate assessment flag in the SPED record comes into play. It must be checked yes in order to fall into the alternate assessment roster. And we can move on to the next slide. So for ACT, we pull third year cohorts the year. And so this spring, it's anybody with a 2022 high school cohort. We do not look at grade level. We do not look at credit level. It's all about this cohort. The cohort is established when the student first becomes a ninth grader, and it doesn't change from that. So if a student is, you know, just barreling with their credits and going to graduate early, then they're most likely will take the ACT as a senior. If they're not barreling through and they have to repeat some classes and are going a little bit slower, they may have to possibly test as a sophomore. It's all about the cohort. And then of course we have the full-time equivalency, and the alternate assessment flag would be coded as no. Okay, next. All right. Homeschooled students. I know this is going to be a bear this spring. I know that, you know, that it has increased quite a bit over this academic year. There is a report that you superintendents have access to in the portal. It's called the Exempt Schools School District Report. It's within the data collections tab of the portal. And you can review the status of these students who have applied for homeschooling or exempt school students. If you, on this report, if you see your students with a submitted or a pending status on the report, the districts can move forward with a 205 enrollment code and an effective date, of course. So that way they can fall off of your roster files. Enrollment is a key. And then of course, I mentioned the external program students already. I'm gonna focus on those kiddos I'll start in February on reaching out to these programs and schools, and but as of right now on your roster files for January, you want to make sure that they are listed under their school of record. So some of the things that I want you to focus on when you are reviewing these reports is, one, are you missing any students? So if you're missing somebody, the first thing I would look at is their enrollment records in Advisor. Are they there? Is there a start date? Is there an end date? That's really common, is enrollment catching up, and as well as any students who are on the list and shouldn't be because they're no longer at your district. So the first thing I'd look at is your enrollment records. And then you want to make sure they are coded with the right assessment, whether they're general, alternate, or ACT. And then there's really just those three things. Are they on the list or are they not on the list? So I would check your enrollment records, and FTE is also. So if enrollment is good, then look at their FTE. And then make sure they're on the right roster. And that's really all that needs to be done at this point. So the lockdown date, right now these reports are live. So as you are doing your updates, Advisor will catch up and you can look at these reports repeatedly up until close of business on Monday, the 11th. And at that point, these roster reports will be locked, and they will only show you the original list of what we are submitting to the vendors. So if you have any changes to your students after the 11th, between the 11th and your test window, which obviously everybody's going to have, you're going to have kids leaving, you're going to have kids coming in, you're going to have IEP reviews, so that alternate flag might change. So after the 11th, you will obviously want to make sure advisor keeps up, because that's what I look at. And that's, if it's not an advisor, then it's going to stay as is. That kid is either going to be tested, or you're going to have to account for why you didn't test that student. So you'll update advisor, and then you will also have to update each testing system. So if you have a student who is supposed to take the phase 1 alternate and they moved in February, you'll want to update advisor, and then you're also going to need to update CAP. Student and test management for the testing systems will open up. For ACT, it's going to open up next week, the 18th, January 18th. So you can adjust records in PA Next after the 18th of January. And then the systems for the phase 1 CAP and for the alternate assessment, which is Insight, the student management will open for those systems on February 22nd. All of this information will be sent out to the DACs. There will also be training webinars for all 3 systems for student management. Let's see, and that all will be sent in an email to the DACs. So you can reach out to your DACs and say, hey, I want to be involved, and they can send you the information once we have it out there. Corey, you have a raising your hand, or, oh, he's talking to somebody else, sorry. Okay. So that's it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there some place online that we can access the calendar of deadlines? Like, why does that only go to the DAC?
You can check our website. It's all of these are posted on the statewide assessment website, which actually was my last slide. I have my contact information and the website's address. And so all of these dates will also be on our website.
Additionally,
Can you be just there? So what website are you talking about? Where
that one on the bottom, the statewide assessment website, the education.ne.gov/assessment.
Okay, and you gave us access to this presentation somewhere, or?
we will. Yes,
where?
we will. We just finished it up this morning, or I did. So yes, we will make sure that it is out there for you to get to. Additionally, you can also go for some of the deadlines, especially specific to other advisor. You can go again to your portal homepage. There is an advisor resource link. And there is a calendar that does have all those dates. And the assessment dates came out in early November and were added.
And that was the advisor resource, or the advisor resource Google site, or whatever that said.
Not the Google site, but the resource.
And then where do you go